underdog. I've been through it all. I could never fall.
Yeah, so let me intro everybody. This is my man, Charlie Ruiz. I met Charlie at the PAC event a couple weeks ago in Miami. So we had a good chance to sit down over lunch for a little bit and then connected throughout the event the whole week. And it's just great that he's able to be here. He flew in. So it worked out perfectly that we got to have him on the pod, and I'm really excited for our conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So talk to me a little bit about, we've done some former athlete talk, but talk to me a little bit about your journey playing baseball and kind of that transition piece that we touched on a little bit.
Yeah, and I like to think of it as it was unconventional. So like being in the Bay, like born and raised, Bay rooted.
Shout out to the Bay.
Hey, always.
Yeah.
I was a JUCO guy, so I was never the recruited. My parents are still in the apartment that I grew up in. Right, I was never recruited. So when it came down to playing, I talk about it being an unconventional path because I love the game.
Yeah.
I love the story of baseball. I love thinking about and hearing the stories of Willie Mays, and then from my dad and my godfather, and I was like, oh, this is just family. This is story and family. So I just love the game.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you start getting good.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait, maybe I can be the first person to go to college in my family with a scholarship. And then you do it. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I'm at Long Beach State down in Southern California. I'm at USC. And I'm like, wait a second. I went from JUCO to D1 to all of a sudden now I'm getting phone calls from scouts and organizations. And it happened so fast. And then all of a sudden, like when I think of the transition, 10th round, things are going well. Everything is right in line. I'm on the radar, on the charts. And then all of a sudden you throw a pitch, it feels funny.
Oh man.
You get sent home. You go back, report back to the off season. Now you need shoulder surgery. Now you're 20 months of rehab, and then your career is over before it started.
Wow.
And then you're like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
And then when people are like, where was that? How were you handling that? Like, were you devastated? Yes. And I was also grateful because I was like, I never thought I'd be here. So I was playing with house money anyways. And I got to live the journey and build relationships and have some moments with my family. But like, I never was that guy.
Yeah.
So that every time I got a chance to think about it, I'm like, it was more of just a deep bow.
So you had that outlook on it while you were playing?
I wish I did.
Yeah. I will say I did not have that outlook while I was playing. And I think it would have served me well to have had that, because it allows you to be more appreciative of the moment while you're in it, as opposed to missing it post game.
100%. And I will say that like we miss it, and this is where the external, right, the inward before outward comes in of when you ask why I play the game or why I love the game. Like there's so many different ways where you can take that.
Yeah.
But when I think about those moments, what do we think about? We think about the locker room with the guys.
Yeah.
We think about the post game with the family, or we think about that one game when I'm in Eugene, Oregon, and all of my family came to watch.
Yeah.
And then after the game, my teammates come into the hotel room and we're all collectively together with my family and my teammates.
Yeah.
Like it's rarely about the actual game.
100%. I've said the same thing. I think, and why I feel like PAC was so unique is like a lot of guys don't miss the actual sport. They miss the feeling of being around the vibe of athletes and the locker room and, you know, the training table, all of those things where you get the bond with other guys. I don't feel like guys miss hitting people and doing all of those things. Obviously, they wish their career would have been longer or whatever the case may be. But that's something that I feel like was pretty evident to me. Was I miss the camaraderie you build with the guys. I miss like the joking around, the experiences that you get post game with the family and all of those little things. It's hard to like recreate those things in my eyes.
And it's something like, to your point, we wish we would have maybe thought or been a little more intentional and present when we were there in the moment.
Yeah.
Because then we miss that. And then we go seek and find it again.
For sure.
And that was part of the thing that I realized when I was transitioning out, let alone, and again, we can take it wherever you want, of like how it was a slow burn, because now all of a sudden I'm coaching my junior college. A lot of what I like to share with people when it comes to finding a way to close the chapter is to do it on your own terms. And if you're hurt or you get hurt, you're forced into retirement.
Yeah.
That's not your own terms.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? In my case, I went back to my junior college. That was like the most transformational 2 years that I had. And I was coaching there. And I'm like, I'm rehabbing. It's been 20 months. Let me call my dad. My dad comes out, sits behind the bullpen area where he would typically come watch me pitch.
Yeah.
Right. I have my other buddy in the back watching, and I pitch against the guys I'm coaching, and I'm throwing 80 miles an hour. I know it's done, but I had to find a way to like make sure I knew that. So here my dad is there with me.
Yeah.
I come off the mound and it's like, okay, where was I at? And the guy's like 80 to 83. At that moment, I look at my dad. I knew he knew. We both hugged. We cried. But he knew it was time. But that was my version of finding a way to close the chapter on my own terms, as much as I didn't want to.
Did you, I mean, you shared that moment with your father, but did you accept it at that moment? Or was it still something that you had to, you know, process moving forward?
I still had to process it moving forward.
And what did that look like?
It was quiet. And going back to what I shared of, I was still playing with house money, so I was still grateful.
Yeah.
But at that same time, I'm like, now what do I do? Because I don't know who to talk to.
Yeah.
And with now the likes of the pack, right? Like seeing how that has unfolded and its space and place to have conversations, to not feel quiet, to not be on an island.
Yeah.
Wish I had that.
Man.
Because that's what I was looking for without even knowing it.
Yeah.
Let alone trying to find a job. Because here I am with my mom and dad are like, baby, we love you. Got a space on the couch for you, but like we don't know what to tell you what to go do. Our blue collar family working hard. Like I didn't have an internship. I'm 26 years old trying to figure out what to do. In
26 is early too. 26 is early, especially in Silicon Valley.
So think about that. Now I'm passing my interview around all over, and all you see on it is volunteer experience, professional baseball. I didn't even talk about it until I eventually got a job, because the guys asked me, they're like, hey, it says you volunteered at the Colorado Rockies. Did you play pro ball? I'm like, yeah, but like I didn't make it to the bigs.
Right.
Like I didn't play for years. I was just a minor leaguer.
Yeah.
And they were like, you realize that that's such a small percentage of people who can say that, and yet here you are for 6 months not getting a job because you haven't talked about that?
That would have put you ahead of a lot of people.
They were like, look, we'll give you the job.
Yeah.
Sign you, for 3 months, as long as you're not crazy.
Yeah.
We got you. We'll get you a job and we'll teach you the skills. Like you have something that is very, very unique that you need to start owning.
I'm wondering, did you not want to give yourself credit for that process of, falling short into getting into the major leagues, or was it just truly you just felt like you volunteered? Because I feel like a lot of times we don't give ourselves credit for the things that we've done, and I had the same problem as well. Like, bro, I've been to a Super Bowl. I won a Super Bowl. I don't tell anyone anything about a Super Bowl because I was on practice squad, but I was scared to give myself that credit out of like, it's the whole imposter syndrome type of thing. So I'm wondering, where did that kind of, you saying you volunteered, where did that come from, or where was that rooted in?
I think it's a combination of things. Of one, the way in which maybe we were raised and how we showed up as good teammates. Yeah. I think we all know, if I were to say we have a spectrum of, okay, there's that guy, the rah-rah guy, the charisma, the one who is going to tell you and always introduce you, or introduce himself as, I am the baseball player, I am the football player. And that's all they talk about. Yeah. And they are loud. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm more of the lead by like example, but I'm going to go ahead and sit back and not be that guy. You're going to know who I am based on my work.
Without the sport.
Yeah. And I am not Charlie the baseball player. I am Charlie who happened to play baseball. Ooh. So for me, it's like, how can I separate that? Let me get as far away from that guy as possible. Yeah. Until you realize 6-7 years later, people like you look you up on LinkedIn. Yeah. Like, who is this guy? What do you do? Yeah. And then all of a sudden you get asked the questions and you go into story mode, and they're like, wait. And until it came down to a good friend of mine who also was a hooper, she called me, we need these people. Yeah. Call you on your BS. She's like, you realize that you can help more people if you find a way to be able to tell your story and share some of the lessons learned on the field. as opposed to you holding back because you think that it's an ego thing. Like you actually can help people more.
For
So
sure.
you're actually being selfish.
For sure.
And I'm like, damn.
Yeah, because there's people that resonate with where you've been and where you're going.
Even if I didn't make it to the league.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that I was wrestling with, was like, who am I if I didn't make it? I'm just covered in L's. I just lost.
Yeah. That's interesting. Because there is power in, I've taken pride in being able to introduce myself without the sport of football.
Good.
But I also know that there is power in what it takes to get to that level. And people do, their ears open up a little more when they hear that you have experienced that, that top 1% of athletics.
Do you have a moment where you feel like that like was blinking red, or like where the light bulb went off when you felt, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and open up with that, or I'm gonna talk about that with a little more conviction.
As far as football?
As far as being able to like say, yes, I did play football, or yes, this is part of my journey.
Yeah.
And not just something you dismissed.
Yeah. You know what? For me, it was, there wasn't a specific moment. I think for me, when I started working on things outside of being an athlete, I started feeling more comfortable talking about being an athlete, because now there's other facets of life to me. Now I'm an entrepreneur, I have a podcast, I'm a speaker. Like I have all of these things that add to who I am as a person. I'm a father, I'm a husband, so outside of just spending time working on new things, there was never a moment where I was like, okay, now it's okay to talk about it. It was just like, you have other things that add to you and give you value. Yes, so football isn't all you can do or all you will do, and I've said it before. I look at playing football as a stepping stone in my journey. I don't think it's the peak of what I'll do. I don't think it's the highest of highs that I'll get to as far as like accomplishments in life. I think that impacting people through my platform and building a brand from the ground up says a lot more than me physically playing on the field, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's one part of you.
Yeah.
And it will always be with you.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I think that's the hardest part of the transition, is to also acknowledge and give yourself the flowers for that.
For sure.
Like, how can I expect someone else? I got to give it to myself first.
Yeah. Before anyone gives it to you.
Exactly. And when I ask you, and I mean, a bit live right here together.
Yeah.
How did you acknowledge or celebrate your own career?
Ooh. I don't think I ever have.
That's the question.
Yeah, I don't think I ever have. And it was crazy because like I also ended my career on an injury, a neck injury, like my 8th year going in. And so there was never a I'm retiring post. There was never retirement party, any of that. It was just kind of like within that 8th year of being out of the game, I just mentally had moved past being in that mindset.
Yep.
I wasn't happy as far as where I was as a man. I didn't feel like I was progressing because I was so comfortable in my role as a football player. And as an athlete, schedules laid out for you, where you got to go, where you're supposed to be at. And I felt like I was lacking in that area. So for me, I didn't celebrate because I didn't feel like I had accomplished internally as a man where I needed to be. I felt like I was being held back by being a professional athlete.
So think about that, right? Think about how hard that is on the transition side.
Yeah.
Right. Of like, how am I going to celebrate an L?
Yeah.
Or how am I going to celebrate this moment, right, that is no longer in front of me to live a childhood dream and to continue a dream where everyone externally is saying, right? This is the external validation, where if I go, wait a second, inward before outward, as we talked a lot about at the PAC.
For sure.
How, like, what do you mean celebrate that?
Yeah.
But then when I ask, or when you think about it, like you said, a retirement post, a party, I was just thinking about that the other day. I'm like, 4 or 5 years go in, it can be a post. But the thing that I add on top of that is like, if you can celebrate or acknowledge or give yourself the flowers for your career, whatever it was, also with people that you love, that's arguably the only thing
Absolutely.
that we need to be able to do.
Absolutely.
And I promise you, if you go ask that question to probably 10 people, 10 athletes, no matter the sport, did you find a way to acknowledge or celebrate your career? The answer, I'm gonna go ahead and bet 7 out of 10 to say no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm hoping that switches.
Yeah, no, it should. I think we like you said, we have a hard time giving ourselves flowers for the things that we have done or are doing, because we live in a time now where everything is, you're comparing everything, you know? So I can look at my 7-8 year career and say, well, this person had the same length career, but all these accolades that stack up. Or I can look at my career as like, you were playing with house money. You had a 7-8 career, did some great things, came out healthy. Like, those are all good things. Those are all positive things. And I have come to that closure, at least.
Good.
Like, I don't hold on to playing football.
Good.
And I know a lot of guys do hold on to playing their sport because you have to be engulfed in your sport to be great at it. But I don't hold on to it in a sense of like, I'm not talking about, oh, I could still go do that. Or back in when I was playing, like, this is how I would have, like, I've moved past that. And like I said, it's something that I consider a stepping stone to the impact that is going to be created through my platform.
It's what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Right. This impact is even greater, and it will be greater.
Yeah.
Because now you've done that work inward to be like, no, I've moved past it. And it takes time.
Yeah.
Right. It took you time, whether it was environment, people, right? You by yourself, right? You had to do that work to get to that space. And now you're gifting other people.
Absolutely.
Right, through your creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is something, we're talking about environment and people that you're around when getting out of the game. What type of advice would you give in that space? Because it is tough I think it's tough when people still see you as the athlete, but you're trying to move on from that narrative, but they just keep putting you back in that space. So what type of advice can you give on that? I think you probably have some good perspective on that.
It's around redefining your starting five. And this is part of what made the transition hard into sales, or trying to find who I was, because I didn't have that. Imagine going, as you know, how many coaches you got texting you, schedule, system.
Yeah, a lot.
Care, right, about you.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself potentially at a company, at a startup, with no support, with nobody on you. You'll figure it out. Go ahead. Be resourceful. You're like, hold on. I just spent 15 years with like multiple people writing me for every little detail.
Yeah.
Now I'm on my own. So now, like, how do I, when I think of a starting five, like, how do I redefine those people based on the current season where I'm at?
In life.
Do I need somebody to ground me? Do I need someone to call me in my BS? Do I need that high-level strategic mentor who's going to push me way outside of my comfort zone that I never even realized or even thought would put me in a space to have the conversations that I'm having, to be in rooms that I'm being, to remind me of my greatness, to remind me, like, who is that person in your life?
I think that's probably the most important.
Damn right. So then I ask, like, when I think of that environment, you go look at your calendar right now and you go, one, who are those people? Two, where are they at on the calendar? Like, man, I haven't talked to so-and-so in 3 months. Where if I were to ask you, like, whenever you talk to so-and-so, whenever I talk to Tom, whenever I talk to Jade, whenever I talk to Mike, it fuels me in this way. Can I be aware of that and go, yeah, I'm going to need more of that. And then also, can I return that to somebody else? Because you may be, whether or not they ask you to be, in their starting five, and you don't even know.
I never thought about it like that. That is important, though. And I'm obviously thinking of who's in my starting five, you know?
Yeah. And what type of person do you need in it?
Yeah.
You might not need a cheerleader right now.
Yeah.
You might need that business mind outside of the box that didn't come from where you came from. That can give you a perspective that you never even imagined.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what I'm like trying to find through right now. Like, whoa, I'm in these rooms.
Yeah.
I don't even know what this, like, I'm good here.
Right.
And okay, maybe the redefinition of my starting five is taking on a new form here.
Yeah. Something I found interesting is, like you said, seasons of life.
Yes.
Like, it's a gift to be able to notice different seasons of your life.
Correct.
Because a lot of people aren't able to decipher, okay, this is a new season, it's time to move on, or I need new connections, new people around. Something that is interesting to me is when those people do change, given the season, is navigating that dynamic.
Absolutely. A lot of the work that I feel like I've come, and you get this because you're an athlete,
Yeah.
right? At the highest level.
Yeah.
When I ask someone what season of life they're in, corporate wise, in tech, in business,
Yeah.
they're like, what do you mean? Like you mean the hamster wheel season where you just show up and you're doing the same thing every single day?
Right.
Most of us find ourselves in that. I've been there, right? I remind myself of what that was.
For sure.
But if I can then start to think about the difference of what off season is, what preseason is, what in season and what postseason is, as an athlete, we go, yeah, we know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Postseason is going to require a different type of you. Off season requires a different type of you. Preseason, right? I'm planning, I'm strategic, I'm thinking. That's going to require a different type of prep. So can I then apply that to my business world? And maybe off season is only 2 weeks, aka vacation.
That's good right there.
But when I think of that off season, like I'm going to be in a whole different state. So when we brought on our third baby girl last year, right? She's 1.
Yeah.
That first 6 months, as we're dealing with some personal losses and some tough times at home, then we bring this baby girl into the world. That first 6 months was a season of grounding. I didn't care what else I needed to do. I needed to be grounded, to be home.
Yeah.
I needed that.
Yeah, for yourself.
Correct.
Yeah, so that you could show up the best way.
Exactly. But then I'm making my decisions based on the season, because when it's hunting season,
it's time to go.
When it's postseason, right? Like, in the same way as being a father.
Yeah.
If it's postseason and I'm in game, like the family's either with you or like I might be on the road for 7 days because we got a 7-game series.
Yeah, and I'm locked in.
And it's expected and it's understood.
I think that's important too, to have the people around you that understand what season you're in and allow you to go get it when it's time to go get it. I feel like I've definitely broken up the year in that sort of phase. Is like, what season am I in? Like, I could feel myself the other day. I'm like, yeah, you've been going for a minute. Like, it's almost time to kind of rejuvenate yourself and give yourself that time. Obviously, still thinking and still creating, but from an aspect of like just being strategic instead of being out front facing, you know? So I definitely notice when it's time for me to go into that off season mode, or it's preseason where I'm gearing up for something. It's just, and it happens naturally. Like, it just shows up for you, and you gotta take it on its offer when it pops up.
Yes. This goes back to the awareness. And as an athlete, you know it. It's the transferable skill. What are the best performers in the world in sport know, right? They know themselves. They are self-aware. Great, I'm feeling it. Like, juice on.
Yeah.
Or I need to sit back and rest. But can I be as intentional with hunting season as I am when it's time to rest?
Yeah.
Same with the relationships. And again, goes back to like, if I'm home, like, can I be where I need to be when I need to be there?
For sure.
All that's around presence and starting with self.
Yeah.
You know that in sport.
Mm-hmm.
You know when it's hunting season.
How does one go about being able to decipher when those seasons are coming? If they're not able to like tell straight off the bat, how does one begin to realize this is a season where I need to pull back? This is a season where I need to get after it.
I'm a big energy guy. I think a lot of athletes can resonate with that.
Yeah.
But how do you check it?
Yeah.
So being able to think of like, I like the framing I like to leverage is like the red light, green light, yellow light.
Yeah.
A lot of the background of sport for me came from the mental performance side of it.
Which I love, the mental performance side of it.
Being able to slow down when everything else is speeding up.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I had learned in my junior college and then that just picked up at Long Beach State with Dr. Ken Revisa was like the godfather of sports psychology.
Yeah.
He would talk about your signal lights. So if I know I'm in a game and things are speeding up and I have a bad outing or something is there's like back-to-back things that happen that are negative, I might be in a red light zone. Like I need to stop. I need to take my breath, inhale, go through my routine. And then we know when we're in that yellow where it's like, hey, I don't need to pause, but I just need to walk with caution, or I need to play with caution. I need to head on a swivel a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then there's that green where it's like, I'm in flow, right? Everything's in flow. I'm feeling good. I show up to the field, right? Everything is in motion. And depending on the sport, like, we know when we're in that zone.
Yeah.
What does that look like in life? How am I depicting that, or how am I evaluating myself every night or every week to go, how many green moments did I have? How many meetings, how many conversations was I in green as opposed to was I in yellow?
Yeah.
And if I start to look at the last month, the last 60 days, and I'm honest with myself, I'm like looking in the mirror, I'm like, it's rough. Go look at your calendar. How many green moments, how many yellow moments, and how many red moments did you have?
Yeah.
And it's all energy levels. I like that as a frame or something to offer as people to think about.
No, I love that too, because I do notice when I'm in that green and everything's flowing easily, I'm big on energy as well. If something seems like it's not working out, or I have to, poke and pry for it to be done, I'm like, let me sit back and maybe give this a little more thought. Maybe this isn't the right thing to do, or, maybe this isn't the right direction to go. But if things are flowing, for example, you coming out here super easy, it's meant to be. We were meant to sit down and talk on the podcast. Like little signs like that, I take those as like, those are the green light phases, I guess you could say.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's environment, but that's also people. To your point, like it's that door. A lot of the time we find ourselves trying to knock through that door.
Yeah.
And it's locked.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, and then it just opens up. You're like, oh, this one's open?
Yeah.
Cool. Let me be aware of that, though, and at least note it.
For sure.
And that just depends on what people, if some people journal, some people talk into a phone, right? You take your notes.
Yeah.
That's just something that, going back to sport, we didn't have to think about that because we have 5 coaches watching game tape with us telling us exactly what to do.
Yeah. That's right.
We don't have that anymore.
For sure. So you got to be able to kind of hone, and it is a skill that you have to kind of sharpen as you get used to listening to those moments.
Yeah, but body too, the somatic thing, right? Like you as an athlete, same.
Yeah.
Man, I'm off, right? Body feels good. Okay, wait. Emotionally, I'm isolating. I'm a little snappy. What is the thing I need? I might need a 30-minute run.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, okay, great. Wow, that feels good. Oh man, every time I have a conversation with this person, then after that, I feel tense. Great. So now let me go ahead and have this meeting booked with this person, and then immediately after, because sometimes we can't control that.
For sure.
I'm going to go ahead and book my little 35, 45-minute jog around the block.
Yeah.
And it's going to fix.
Yeah.
It's going to fix everything in front of you.
Yeah, that's interesting. That kind of leads me into my next question. You had posted something the other day around you can be a good parent or good father, but also, a good athlete or professional, whatever the case may be. It was something centered around that. And I want to get your thoughts on that because I do feel like a lot of guys have, and I was one as well. When I had a bad day at practice, I brought it home and it was a bad day at home. I wasn't able to kind of separate the two. And I think it obviously makes it harder on the family given the situation that you're in, but it's just not the right way to live your life as a man. I feel like it creates like this weird relationship with sport as well as the family, because they're hoping you had a good day so it can be a good day at home, So, and then as an athlete, you're dictating how the rest of your day is going to go based off of the practice or the game you had. So I want to get your thoughts on that a little bit, because I think that's something that a lot of guys struggle with.
As we always will.
Yeah.
It's around the way that I think to or articulate it for myself and how I kind of help folks see it is performance is within 4 different frames. We have our core, our mind and body. That's for you. The second way to be present and perform is through our community. And that's our relationships. That's our family. Those are our people.
Yeah.
The third is our craft, our profession, being on the football field, being on the baseball diamond. And the fourth is our creativity. That's a sense of play.
Yeah.
We default into only feeling productive and on and in motion and in a state of success if we are focused on our craft.
Listen,
that's it.
This morning I woke up with a bounce because I was shooting a podcast today.
Right? That's it.
Yeah.
So like that's where I remember having a conversation with somebody, former teammate of mine, works in baseball, and he's talking to me about how unproductive he felt. And as we're talking, I'm like, walk me through your day. He's like, man, well, it's off season now. Right. So I got up, went to the field, got a quick lift in, saw some of the guys, did some administrative stuff, came home and actually made breakfast for the kids, and then took my wife to the furniture store, came back from the furniture store, and then picked up my other kid, and we had a little stretch in the gym.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, like, tell me more about your day that was not productive.
Right.
He's like, well, I didn't do anything at work. I got nothing done at the field. I got nothing done productively for my craft. I'm like, yet you showed up for your community and your people with the same type of presence and intentionality without you even realizing it. How can we start keeping score in the different areas of our life?
Yeah.
The way in which we are typically used to in sport or in job.
Yeah.
I know what my quota is. I know how many calls I need to make. I know the revenue I need to hit. There's metrics there. There's no metrics on how you show up as a father,
Absolutely.
how you show up as a husband, how you show up as a friend, as a teammate.
Yeah.
So can I then go, wait a second, where am I filling up my buckets, or how am I showing up intentionally and performing by being present with myself, with my people, my relationships, the community? Craft is going to be there. We know that. That's what we do. That's the great. I know where I need to be and how I need to do it.
Yeah.
Not I have people who are going to tell me and beyond me for it.
For sure.
But it's that creativity one, which is where we started. How am I present there? There's no metrics on presence.
Yeah. No, there isn't any metrics on that. And I feel like that's the hard piece for guys getting out of their sport.
Correct.
I don't get a grade on how I'm being as a dad or a husband. I may get a grade on my game tape, but now it's kind of up to me to decipher, am I putting 100% effort into this thing? And I feel like a lot of guilt and shame can come out of that when you don't know how to grade it efficiently.
And that's where...
Should you be looking at it as a grade type of thing?
And that's where I offer, right, my opinion.
Yeah.
There should not be a grade. Right? Because we got to give ourselves grace because we are going through it too.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the awareness. Like we know, right? I know when I'm showing up and I'm present with my family.
Absolutely.
Now there are things that we can do, we can implement, we can schedule.
Yeah.
Right? Talk about a closing routine. I was a closer. So I was the crazy person at the end of the game who does all this weird stuff because it was just within my routine.
Yeah.
But it was systematic. It helped me show up. What does that look like when it comes to me closing the school day, the game day, closing my work day? Can I then create that space the same way I did in sport? Great. That 4:45 walk, I put my phone away. I go walk the dog. That's my form of meditation. I come back home. Now I'm locked in with the family. Hard to grade it, but what I can do is be aware to go, hey, this worked.
This is the time that it's...
Let me do more of that.
Yeah.
Or yesterday with my daughter, right? It's been construction on at the house. It's crazy. It's madness.
Yeah.
Three little girls running around, construction, dog, madness.
I can imagine.
My wife went to pick up my oldest, and I had like a 45-minute window to work out.
Yeah.
My middle was like, hey, like, I want to work out with you. I'm like, of course. So we're just stretching. I just did my stretch routine with her. It was literally 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Made the day.
For her
and me.
And you, yeah.
So can I go, wait? My wife comes home like, hey, sorry, like you probably didn't get to go do the run you wanted to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, but I got 10 minutes with Ave that I got to add into this notion of filling up my community bucket. Can I just be a little more aware of it? There's no metric on that.
Yeah.
But I know I can go look in the mirror and go, yes, locked in today.
That's satisfying, man, when you are able to see that. Were you superstitious as a pitcher?
Bad.
Yeah.
I had any of my old teammates would laugh. They know exactly what I did. But there goes Charlie again, knocking on his head, doing his weird breath work routine.
Yeah.
And I had my whole, like, don't step on the line.
Mm-hmm.
It was, again, as a closer, it was like even probably more
Yeah.
superstitious.
Yeah.
But the one thing I hold even to this day under the bill of my hat, I wrote less is more.
Mm.
And that's a lot of how I try and show up now. It's just a reminder, like, keep it simple. Less is more.
Mm.
Like, exhale, things are going to be fine.
Less is more.
Always.
It's always enough. And that's something that I used to remind myself of too, which is crazy because I always felt like I had to overcompensate or overdo, whatever the case may be. And it's like when you play offensive line in the NFL, less is more. It allows you to be efficient, and efficiency matters, and not just in sport, but in life. Like if you can be efficient with your time, efficient with your relationships, your business, like you're going to be in a good spot at the end of the day, instead of thinking that, you know, everyone says the work smarter, not harder, or there's some people that flip it to work harder, not smarter. And it's like, be more efficient. Just be as efficient as you can, and things will take care of itself.
That's the camp that I'm on, or at least I try to have to remind myself again, because we're all still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But when we simplify and try and live through that, both in our words and our actions and the environments, things seem to be a little more clear and light.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here for that lightness. I remember being on the beach in Miami. It was so cold.
Yeah.
And I remember he started, and in my mind, when he's asking for the word of the day, where we're at, like this notion of alignment and light came up. Like I feel light. And that's a feeling that is worth noting. Why did I feel light? Why did I feel aligned? And a lot of it was because, man, I got nothing to do but be right here, right now. And it's the same thing that we talk about in sport.
Yeah. What can you elaborate on the feeling of light a little more? Because I do think that that's something that I enjoy. Is like, there's been times where I felt heavy, and right now I feel light. You know, like I feel like I don't have that heaviness over me that I've experienced before. So I just want to get your take on what it feels like to feel light.
I think it's to feel, so it's almost like a peanut butter jelly of alignment and light.
Yeah.
That's why I shared that. Because if we are moving in our purpose, or we're finding the people and the spaces, like you shared earlier, that feel very green, like it's easy.
Yeah.
If I can walk in both lightness, like I don't feel like I have to be doing anything. Everything is in abundance. I get to do.
Yeah.
We hear that all the time.
Yeah.
We hear a lot of these sayings, right?
Yeah.
I get to do. But like to actually feel that, like abundant, I am here. I'm going to be fine. Things are going to be okay.
Yeah.
I get to show up and have a conversation with you. There's so much going on in the world.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many different conversations we can have. But if I can just show up and serve and be present with the person in front of me, that's the biggest gift we can give. So again, that's why like I live on this like presence as the kind of umbrella of everything for me. If I am present, I am light to people because I am moving and just focused on right now. I'm not thinking about all the things I got to do.
Yeah.
You got so many things you got to do.
Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah. But I'm here in this moment.
Correct. I sat in a room full of other athletes a few years ago after going through this brand exercise. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how am I going to take this like brand statement that I had created with another friend of mine? And it was like 2 sentences. And I consolidated it into 3 words. And it's truly how I'm showing up in the form of lightness. And I stood up and I was like, the words that come to mind are to choose presence over preference. Because if we can choose presence right here, right now, no matter who we're talking to, including ourselves, that's the biggest gift we can give as a leader. And if I'm doing that, it's a light feeling. Because I'm not wearing any burdens. I'm not heavy on all the things I got to do. I'm just focused right here.
Yeah.
And I got to remind myself that we got to do that with ourselves just as much as we got to do it with the people in which we serve.
100%. How often do you find yourself having to remind yourself that is your MO?
Daily.
Like, daily. I'm always interested to see how people process or how people go through their process of reminding themselves because I feel like it's a daily decision for me as well. Just as soon as my feet hit the floor,
Boom.
outside of the things that have to be done around the house, I'm now internally having conversations in my mind about where we are mentally.
Yeah. And being able to ask those questions
Yeah.
and put it, I mean, as we go back to the locker room,
Yeah.
it's everywhere. Computer, phone, watch, alarm. I mean, you see, and this goes back into the mental performance side of business and life, right? There's a combination here that athletes understand intuitively. You're like, yeah, I know what that is. That clip went viral a couple years ago with Aaron Donald before the Super Bowl.
Wow, when he was talking to
when he's just chirping. Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting up every day and part of my morning meditation or affirmations in the morning is I am here, right now, as a father, a husband, as a son, as a friend, as a colleague, as an owner, like that, if I say and remind myself of that every single day.
Yeah.
And then if I find myself like off, what do I need to get back to? Let me just go ahead and say those again.
Is that how you process it? Do you say it out loud or do you say it in your head?
In the morning, I say it out loud.
Okay.
Yeah, I try and find quiet space to be able to say it in the morning.
Yeah, I think affirmations for me is something that, well, I know affirmations for me is something that changed a lot for me. Just given the business I came from of playing football, I was very hard critic on myself, very critical of myself. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And so, when I first kind of discovered affirmations, because I wasn't using affirmations while I was playing. Post-career though, as I'm doing like my research on just self-development and, the things that I was kind of leaning towards getting into and passionate about, affirmations was something that was pointed out to me very early on. And so that was what I used to journal about every morning. And I will say being consistent with it was probably one of it was crazy to notice the progress that you make in yourself internally when you do stay consistent with telling yourself these positive things. Like they start to now drown out the negativity that your mind wants to give you.
Yes.
And so I'm really big on affirmations. Like I love affirmations. It's still on my mirror in my bathroom. So it's something that I see every day, and it's something that I'm an advocate for sure.
I love that you do that. That you see it every morning.
Yeah.
And you implement it because we have to.
Yeah.
And hearing about the journal, same thing. To be able to look at those, even the value exercise we did in Miami, right? Those words mean something. There's a story within those.
Yeah.
We've even talked about storytelling.
Yeah.
But like storytelling from an identity perspective as an athlete, to know like what family means, what persistence means, what grit means, what resilience means to you. That's different. So to be able to go back into your journal to go, man, today was a grind. Yeah. But then to be able to go, wait a second, like I've been here before. And to then remind myself of those values or of those affirmations, that then gets carried into the story you're writing now. Yeah. But that's where I love this kind of intersection of sport and business and life after, because athletes have such rich stories and backgrounds where you say something like, I handle failure well, or you say something like, I'm resilient. You go to a specific time and place and moment in your life. And I think there's power in being able to tell that story with conviction. And the more you're in tune with you, journal, your values, your affirmations, the more those stories have become natural and easy. But again, it's worth being able to flex and adapt those based on who you're talking to.
Yeah. Talk to me about storytelling, because that's something that I've noticed since being around the PAC team. Like I've met some great storytellers and people that can really convey their message given the crowd that they're in front of, and when to add layers to it. I don't know if you heard Sean Hart speak.
Master.
He was great. And so talk to me about storytelling a little bit, because like you said, athletes do have great stories. I think where guys struggle is being able to pull out those stories in a way that they feel comfortable sharing with people to resonate.
Yeah. So I think the art of story, it's an inward journey. Yeah. And again, going back to what we talked about, it's hard for people to go there because there may be some pain there, or there may be something we don't want to dive into. That's where also the emotion and some of that like rich history that you have has also compelled you to be in the space that you're in now.
For sure.
So you watch Sean Hart go up there and just absolutely deliver a masterclass on it.
Bro, he killed it, bro.
And to be able to see the other speakers up there, right? There's something that they had within their story. It's hard for us if we don't have the right people and environments that also embrace and welcome that. And I think that's something that I had learned through my time at a communications firm that I was working at. Whereas I'm like, all these executives, all of these people that I'm working with in creating these stories and these narratives, it's all been given to them. Here's your deck. Here's your story. Hold on. Like, who am I? Who are you? How do you bring the biggest question they get? How do I bring my authentic self to the stage? I'm like, well, have you ever sat with yourself and actually asked yourself what spaces and places actually shaped who you are? And their answer most of the time, no.
Yeah.
So for me, I had realized that even more, was it almost 2 years ago now? I've only ran one marathon. I'm not an avid runner.
Yeah. What was it?
Running used to be punishment.
Yeah, for sure.
So for me, I had always told myself I want to run.
Yeah.
And in this game of self-awareness of trying to figure out something that serves me during a stressful time, I was like, you know what? I've always talked about running a marathon. I was like, I'm going to go map out, because I got lost. I didn't like get lost, but I was running, and I found myself running through my old apartment complex one day. And I stopped in my porch where my godfather lived, and like I got emotional. I was like, man, I miss him. And then I ran by the apartment complex where I grew up. And I'm like, okay, this place is like, this sent me into this emotional like ride. And it hit like Kid Cudi hit on the actual like headphones soundtrack to my life. And I just got in this space. I came home. I was like, babe, I'm going to run a marathon. She was like, well, when are you signing up for? I was like, I'm going to map out all of the different places in and around here in the Bay Area that meant something to me. My junior college, my high school, my grandparents' house, the old apartment complex. I'm going to go run by where my parents live now. And I mapped out 26.2 around my house. And then the finish line was my front doorstep with my girls holding like a little rope.
Wow, yeah.
I called it an identity marathon.
Yeah.
And I took off. And at that point, I had created a soundtrack that like spoke to all these different stages of my life. But the best part about it was when I went running, I was like, all right, hey, Sammy, can you be at Arroyo? He was my catcher. I was like, can you be there with water? I talked to my little brother, hey, can you be at the junior college that he played at, that he coaches at now?
Yeah.
Can you be there? And he was with his fiance and his dog. I ran by my parents. So all those little stops that you would have on a marathon, I just put people that I loved
there.
And I thought, as I was running to each one of those spaces, who was I when I was at Arroyo High School in San Lorenzo? What type of guy was I at Chabot Junior College? And that then put me in a space of like, oh, you learned about community and sacrifice at Parkside Commons where you grew up. You learned about tenacity and grit and mental performance at Chabot Junior College in Hayward. And I was like, whoa. Now we all can't go do that.
Yeah.
But we can still think about, what are those places?
No. 100%.
Now, how do I show up on that or with that on stage?
Yeah, 100%. I've done that as an exercise without even knowing it. With my therapist, I have done the identity thing where she's like, list me what you value, your top 3 things. And so we did that exercise, and that was something that allowed me to really know myself and know why things may flow a certain way for me and why they may not fit in what I want. And then speaking in terms, I had mentioned when I was with the New England Patriots and we went to the Super Bowl, I was on practice squad, like just giving my career thought and the places that I took stops at. And I'm like, which one, what did these stops teach me?
Yes.
And using New England as an example, go to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, you're on practice squad. That taught me there may be times that you're putting in the work for something, but you may not be at the forefront of getting the credit for it. But you still took part in it, and you can still be appreciative of that process given what you were able to accomplish. So like there's little things like that I'll be able to like pull from
There you go.
my experiences that I'm like, okay, there's times now where I'll put in some work, but I may not get the credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's for me to draw back on those experiences.
There you go. And if there is, I love that, because now you then have that. So as you're running, who knows, right? A media company in the future, as you are leading and talking to these students, right? You have these lessons learned from something that is yours.
Yeah.
Nobody else can give you that deck and say, here's your story.
For sure.
No, that's yours. But you did the work inward to now they'll go, that is my lesson. Now then that's a gift you can go give to somebody else because it's yours.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. It didn't pop into my head that way until you started telling me about how you went on that marathon run and, you know, place people at certain things. I think that's an exercise that people, if you are in that space of wanting to kind of figure out who you are at your core, I would do something like that, or just think about your journey and kind of dissect what you learned at each part of your journey, given where you're trying to go. I feel like that's a powerful exercise for people to do.
And the people around, right?
Yeah.
As we saw, the pack, right? Sean, what he does and how he creates that space for you to go be who you are.
Yeah.
Then you have the master, So Cole, kick us off that last day.
Yeah.
That's his.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody else can do that.
Nobody can do it like that.
And even if you try to replicate that, that goes back into you knowing who you are.
Yeah. That's the big piece, knowing who you are.
The identity game. It's the hardest.
There's so many situations where, especially in life now, you may lose track of, because we're fed so many different things, like you said, phone, computer, all of these things, comparing your life to other people's lives. Like, being appreciative of who you are and where you are on your journey is one of the more satisfying things that I'll say can allow you to really just flourish in your role. Like, I could look at someone else's podcast and be like, they got this or they did this, but it's not this. It's not this platform.
Nope.
And so what makes it special is this platform stands for what it stands for, and it allows me to be appreciative of it in a different way.
That I love. I don't know how much more time we have, but I am so curious when you think of the origin, right? Like, for the underdogs, you gave me a little bit at lunch, right? But like, hearing that, there's this sense of, like, I want to hear more of that from you. Yeah. When you think of why that is part of your story.
Why being an underdog is part of my story?
Yeah. For the underdogs. Why?
For me, I've always felt like we hear all the stories of people who are at the top. And there's always there's a lot of gatekeeping at the top.
Yep.
You know, and I understand you got to put your work in and you got to, you know, kind of educate yourself and do all, no one's going to hand it to you. But for the underdogs, for me, is a place where there is no gatekeeping. Like, like, I'm going to give you the game. My guests are going to give you the game.
Yeah.
And you're not going to come here and be like, they accomplished this, but they didn't tell me how to do it. You know?
Yes.
And I feel like I've been in that scenario so many times in life, even when I was in the NFL, of like wanting someone who was more established to help me with something, but they didn't. And so I took the mentality of like, all right, well,
I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it on my own. And it may not be as good, but hey, I'm going to do it on my own.
And that is like that, you taking that ownership and going, I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Right? That takes conviction. It takes being bold.
Yeah.
And here you are.
Yeah.
50 plus episodes in.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I applaud you so much for that. And I think that's also part of why, as I had met you briefly, I'm like, oh no, this is like aligned. It's everything that he's about, that he's doing, the space he's creating for athletes, for humans, not just athletes, right? To be able to like take that mentality is huge. Yeah. And also could be life-changing. Right? Because if then you're like, no, there's no gatekeeping here.
Nah.
And that's the hardest thing, is I even thinking about my journey into this space.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7 years, however long it's been, a lot of people in the speaker category, that space,
Yeah.
right? The whole method is, let me go ahead and say just enough so that then I can then turn it around and throw
Yeah.
up a code on the board and then have and sell you more.
Yeah.
Like, no, let me go ahead and give you the answers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to give you the answers, but also I might not have the answers.
100%.
But if we can create that space
Yeah.
to remind ourselves that, hey, like, winning is a little different now. We talked a little bit like winning is not as black and white as it used to be when we're on the field.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes with open conversation and creating space to say, hey, I'm not gatekeeping.
No gatekeeping here. And I feel like that's just, to me, it stands for something when people know that I'm for the underdogs. Like, you know, like I love a good underdog story. And I love being the underdog because I love being, and you don't even have to say you're counting me out, but I assume that I'm counted out, you know? And I'm not carrying that energy, but it allows me to stay true to who I am, like, and push the brand harder than, you know, most would. So, yeah, man, I just feel like with this platform, you know, and creating it, it was just one of those things where I want to give people a space to feel like they're heard and seen.
Boom.
And they don't have to be at the top of their game because there's enough for everyone to eat out there. And I feel like everyone can do it, you know? So, yeah, it was about creating that space that people can be heard and seen, and they don't have to be the best at this or the best in this area. It's like, you're great in your own, in your own field and in your own way. So lean into that, you know?
Yes. You've taken the you versus you kind of mantra and you've created a platform for it. And you're doing that.
100%.
That's why you're walking in your light and why you are walking light.
Yeah, man. That's real, man. I appreciate you, man.
Yes.
I appreciate you pulling up. That, like I said, this something that just worked out so easily. I was like, it's meant to be. And then obviously when we spoke in Miami, there was a synergy there that, you know, I would always love to have you on the platform. Always want to continue to, you know, grow our relationship and stay in contact, which I know we will. But it says a lot about you for pulling up and hopping on the podcast, because you didn't have to do that. So I appreciate you, man, and I'm grateful for our relationship for sure.
Honored. This was fun. This to me, and meeting you and then seeing this come to life in such a, I mean, what were we talking, 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Barely?
2 weeks. Yeah, 2.5 weeks.
I think speaks to everything that you said about being able to kind of find the spaces where it's easy.
Yeah.
And that comes with the people and environments. And you've set that up both physically, but then also with the actual podcast and the platform you're creating. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Congratulations. Celebrate that career.
Yeah.
ASAP.
I will. I'll get to it. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to this episode of For the Underdogs podcast. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, all of those things, and I'll see you soon.